What's up, Buttercup? Welcome back to my channel. Today's book review is After the People Lights Have Gone Off by Stephen Graham Jones. I don't have a physical copy because I got it at the library, but I will of course share the book cover in that space right there anytime now. There we go. Okay. When I do have the money to buy books again, sometime in the near future, I hope, I will be getting a copy of this anthology of multiple horror short stories. I gave this anthology 4 stars, lots of solid stories in here, but also ones I wasn't feeling. That kind of just happens with a short story anthology, so that's why it's not 5 stars. The sci-fi horror short stories weren't my thing, and not because they were written badly, it's just because I'm not a fan of sci-fi. I can only enjoy so many genres, basically. I'm not a huge fan of sci-fi, not a huge fan of westerns. I'm sure there's a couple other ones, but yeah, there's about 3 sci-fi horrors in this anthology, and so like I said, you get a mixed bag. Not like it's bad writing. Stephen knows how to write. It's just there are some that are really fantastic, and there are some like the sci-fi horror where, yeah, not my cup of tea, but as a collective, 4 stars. Now, this anthology holds 15 short stories that tap into the supernatural and everyday life. Included are 2 original stories, several rarities, a few out-of-print tales, as well as a few best-of-the-year inclusions. If you like horror, there's something for you in this collection. Funnily enough, for me, my favorite is the short story with one of Stephen King's most famous villains who pops up in a lot of his books. Spoiler, okay? Spoiler. So don't get upset because I have been told that saying this character's name in the books that he might or might not be in is a spoiler. Okay, so get ready. The character in this short story and this anthology is Randall Flagg. I haven't read The Stand in full, but I've seen all the film versions of it, and I'm going to eventually read the short story that was originally put out before, I think, like everything else regarding Randall Flagg. And I'm gonna say, this might be piping hot, but I think that Alexander Skarsgård as Flagg is fantastical. I prefer him as Flagg. Now, was I completely satisfied with that version, the HBO miniseries version? No, but actually it wasn't the worst. Sorry. My husband is a huge fan of The Stand and Randall Flagg as a whole. Like, The Stand is his favorite book ever. So, of course, I have knowledge because he talks about it a lot. So that's how I know basically all about The Stand. And, of course, we've watched all of the versions of The Stand without reading the books. I just know the things. So I don't feel the need to read the long version of The Stand, which is like, what, over 1,000 pages? I might read the short version. My husband read the short version when he was younger, and then he realized that there's a long version, and so he read that. Like, I know all of the things. So this short story with Randall Flagg that Stephen Graham Jones wrote, I think it was really good. Actually, like I said, my favorite out of the 15 short stories. And therefore, color me surprised when this short story pops up. We're at a gathering, a book club to be precise, with a bunch of adults, and they're talking about this book they've been assigned to read. Of course, that's the point of a book club. And then they have had some trouble in the past with gearing up and discussing the assigned book, but this time, that particular book, everyone's really interested in talking about it, which is good. And then a strange man walks into the building saying he's new and that he's late for the book club. And then he starts talking about life and death and are you living the life that you really want so on and so forth. And of course, everyone's weirded out, but also very intrigued. And I found it very thought-provoking. Nothing bad happens, technically, except some existential dread. Don't we all love that in a horror short story, or just in general? Not really, but here we are. It happens. It's okay. It's part of life. I think I connected with this short story the most because around this time, I was waiting to hear if I had breast cancer or not at 32 years old. Yeah. So, you know, that was great. Great. But great news. No cancer. All is good. But this short story was oddly comforting to me, so therefore, of course, the short story is my favorite, #1. Thank you so much, even though I haven't read The Stand. Another solid story is Doc's story, and it's about werewolves. That's not a spoiler. It's the first line in the short story, so don't come at me, okay? Thank you. At first, it was kind of slow, but then I got into the groove of the story, and then bam! Bam! The ending was shocking. The ending, great storytelling, amazing. I had to pause my life for a good 2 minutes after finishing that short story, and that is great storytelling. Of course it is. Stephen knows how to freak you out, and he's very skillful at it. He has a deep hold and understanding of what horror is, no matter the subgenre of horror. I don't get scared at this point, but I do get uncomfortable and kind of creeped out at times, depending on the story, of course. And Stephen is obviously great at storytelling and a slow buildup of creep and uncomfortable. And I think that can be really hard to do, especially in written form. It's honestly easy, but also cheap to do it in film. I think it's an art form to do it in written word, because it's just different seeing something, especially like a jump scare. Like at this point, jump scares are pretty cheap, but you're still gonna jump because it's a surprise, right? And then I think a lot of horror has gone into cheap scares versus like a slow build, or just outright gore to make you like sick. But Stephen doesn't do that. He is a slow creep, slow uncomfortable build for all of his works. And that's why I really enjoy Stephen Graham Jones and his writing. At the end of this book, there's an afterword where he gives a brief breakdown of each short story. Loved it. I flipped back and forth. Like I would finish one short story and then I would flip to the back and then I would read the little information. It's not more than a couple of paragraphs, but I just love knowing the background, even for short stories, and how he was inspired to write all those short stories, even the ones that I wasn't interested in. There were quite a few that I thought were good, and then the sci-fi horror, I'm like, that's fine, not like into aliens, whatever. But it was still interesting to see his inspiration. I honestly wish more short story writers and anthologies had something like that, especially if you have multiple writers. That would be really cool. So can we make that happen? Publishing standard, possibly? Please and thank you. I would love to see that. Thank you so much for watching my book review on After the People Lights Have Gone Off by Stephen Graham Jones. Of course, I recommend this anthology, and let me know your thoughts down below. Have you read this short story collection? Are you into short stories? Yeah, let me know. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye!